Why are so many dogs suffering from health issues? Actress Katherine Heigl, who's helped save over 16,000 dogs through her foundation, says she's seeing more issues with dogs' joints, odors, and health than ever before. And after doing a ton of research, she feels there's one place we can look to support any dog's health: their food. So she decided to create something she could actually feel good about feeding her dogs. It's called Superfood Complete. Superfood Complete is made with over 30 of the healthiest ingredients on the planet, including several superfoods vital to your dog's health. Badlands Ranch also sponsors the Jason Debus Heigl Foundation, which has helped rescue thousands of dogs and place them in loving homes. Dogs across America are trying this food and experiencing amazing health benefits. Go to badlandsranch.com/save50 and order right now to get up to 50% off your regular price order with a 90-day money-back guarantee. If you want your dog to experience all these incredible things, go to badlandsranch.com/save50 today.
Shop Plato's Closet tax-free August 2nd through 4th for back-to-school styles. We sell the trendy, gently used styles you need to make a difference in the world and in your wallet for back-to-school shopping. Save up to 70% off regular retail prices by choosing recycled styles. Save even more when you shop tax-free this weekend. Make a change that others can respect and repeat. Shop Plato's Closet in North Charleston and West Ashley this year for your back-to-school looks. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
The following podcast may contain discussions supported by science that may be considered dangerous to some listeners and conspiracy theorists. Discretion is advised.
The 3 Down Greencast is brought to you by the Pile of Bones Brewing Company. Home delivery available in Regina at sassbeerdelivery.ca. Welcome to the 3 Down Greencast. You are listening to the internet's only Canada's Team podcast. I'm Joel Gasson with John Fraser as usual, and we have plenty to get to as always. The Riders lost to the Bombers in the Labor Day Classic in what was actually a pretty classic football game, I would say.
Really good.
Maybe not an all-timer, but still a very high-quality football game that was certainly worth the watch. Scoreboard may not have indicated that, but that was one of those games where I think the stats lie a little bit. Yep. So we're going to get into sort of the game as a whole, and the coaching decisions, I think, are sort of the big topic to come from that game, and the decisions made by head coach Craig Dickinson and offensive coordinator Jason Maas firmly in the spotlight after that one. But this is something we probably would have touched on last week, but for a variety of life reasons, just couldn't get around to nailing down in time to do an episode last week.
Yeah, don't worry, neither of us are dying.
No.
Nothing serious like that, just one of those cluster F of a weeks that it doesn't seem to line up, which can happen from time to time, as you are on the mend from illness, and I just have 3 kids.
Yes. So you may have remembered before that on the Twitterverse, it was the other co-host of this program, John Fraser, asking the world to determine who will be his favorite college football team.
Yes.
I tried to make the point that he should not choose one, because that is the most fun part of college football, is just following the chaos and letting your heart follow you wherever you may lead.
Right.
And you can still do that even with a favorite team, I suppose. I mean, I am quasi a fan of Pittsburgh and Oregon State. Dan Plaster, of course, Miami fan. So I mean, but we all know that when push comes to shove, when things get weird, you know where to turn, and that's ultimately really what the sport is all about.
Well, and that's it. I find myself, I can invest better if I have a rooting interest in one team, but still enjoy the chaos. It's similar to how my love of the NFL really took it to another level once I finally settled on cheering for the Minnesota Vikings. Insert jokes here.
Yes, I mean, the only thing I would say is no matter how unlikely, it is still technically possible for every NFL team to win a championship.
That's
as much as we love
true.
College football, it's not about the top 4 teams. That's, to me at least, anyway, that's not what it's about.
No, exactly. And you're a filthy bandwagon hopper for jumping on one of those. So it's just, as someone with a rooting interest, somebody I can focus on and then let the rest of it cascade down. So I went to the Twitter world, and with our help of the friends at the Sickos Committee, threw it out there. And I gotta say, college football Twitter, like, I know Twitter is like a cesspool of toxicity and awful these days, but man, get into college football Twitter, because it's just everybody's like, hey, our team is weird and we're kind of good and you should come cheer for us. Tailgates are awesome. And it was cool. Like, I didn't expect it to go like, I don't know if viral is the right word, but the amount, it definitely wasn't viral, but it was like the amount of interactions I had just off of posing a simple question on really the week before college football started. Was just like, my whole timeline was filled, minus one person who missed the assignment and suggested I should be a BC Lions fan, which I'm like, okay.
I could have seen the confusion had Boston College, actually, if their school name was the Lions, but they're the Eagles. So.
They are. That's I thought that for a second. And they said, no, you're on the West Coast. You should cheer for the BC Lions. I'm like, college football. And specifically NCAA football, because, you know, the Huskies. Got to cheer for the Huskies. I live in Saskatoon. Been part of that program for a while. But I was overwhelmed with the Boise State fans. Oh my goodness, everybody. Hey, our field is blue. Tailgates are awesome. Sometimes we're good. We played maybe the most chaotic game in NCAA history. And I'm like, hey, and they're on TV semi-often. All right, I'm in. But the thing that really put it over the edge here, as I go into my Twitter, because I was
going to say, are you going to just pass over the scandal of this whole thing?
Well, I don't know if it's scandal, because you had me leaning towards Oregon State. And then Leon Rice fan, a.k.a. Jordan Morales, who, by the way, just brief interaction, great guy, good follow on Twitter, reaches out and he's like, when you commit to Boise State fandom, DM your mailing address and t-shirt size. And I accepted the DM request, said, bribery's the best way, let's go Boise. So, yeah, it came down to chaos. Like, if somebody would have said, be an Alabama fan, here's a shirt, I would have been like, no, I have some integrity. But, yeah, offer me a free t-shirt and I'll do just about everything.
Bribery. Can't believe it came down to bribery. Because, and I'm glad you eventually went to Boise State, because you were leaning towards UCLA, which was...
Okay, that's also because, you know what? UCLA, A, the colors are nice, and B, there was a photo texted to me by a friend with him and one of the UCLA cheerleaders at a game. And he's like, hey, A, you can cheer for the same guys I do, and B, look, smoke shows. So that was also part of it. But I think Boise was meant to be for another big reason. If you follow this program for more than, say, a week, you know about my man crush on Ryan Dinwiddie, and the fact that at one of these Grey Cups, you, me, and Dan Plaster are going to be the traveling Dinwiddies, is I have a Ryan Dinwiddie jersey. He has a Ryan Dinwiddie jersey, and we'll just dress you up as an Argos coach. So, Ryan Dinwiddie, Boise State, like, he's like an all-timer in Boise State. So that helped too.
Yeah.
My Dinwiddie jersey, I feel like there'd be more people at a Boise game with a Bombers Dinwiddie jersey than there would be at a Bomber game.
With a Bomber jersey, I don't know.
Okay,
with definitely like a Boise State jersey, maybe, yeah.
I mean, I'm still fairly certain that if it's more than one, it's definitely Boise, because I feel like
it would be a push at best, and that's because there happens to be a Bomber fan in town.
Or me eventually when I wear my Bombers Dinwiddie jersey to a Boise game.
Yeah, but we're glad you landed somewhere, but we're far more glad that your Boise State Broncos were destroyed by Canada's team, the Oregon State Beavers, this weekend. So,
and that's what we should prefix. When you say Canada's team, we're not jumping onto that bandwagon that Peterson tried to start when he was play-by-play. We're starting on to the Oregon State Beavers. Now, okay, I know everybody called them Canada's team when Chubba Hubbard and Abin Ogbamia were there.
God, I'm glad with the Oklahoma State Cowboys, but yeah.
Sorry.
Same color scheme, but yeah.
Okay. So why is Oregon State the Canada's team?
So this is a story that goes back to the 2020 pandemic year, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Or it might have been 2019. Either way, the year doesn't really matter that much. And it's really just basically an inside joke between Dan Plaster and I. I don't think anyone outside of maybe he and him and maybe a few people on the Pacific West Coast really care about Oregon State and Canada. But it seemed like because TSN will often play a nightcap on the college football day. They'll play, they'll have the noon Eastern game. They'll have kind of a mid-afternoon game, an early evening game, and then usually into the late night, which is often a Pac-12 game.
Right.
And there was one year, it was either 2019 or 2020, I don't forget exactly what year it was. For some reason, it seemed every time you put on that 10 p.m. Eastern start on TSN2, Oregon State was on. And they were at home at Reese Stadium. So it just kind of became a thing between Dan and I. We're like, oh, Canada's team is on.
Oh,
and
there we go. Okay.
They were just on TV so much in Canada that we just started to call them Canada's team, and it's kind of stuck and grown, and I'm probably going to log on to homefieldapparel.com one of these days and order one of their great Oregon State Beaver shirts to go along with my Hawaii Rainbow Warriors shirt.
Your Hawaii Rainbow Warrior shirt is a top 10 shirt I've ever seen any human wear ever. It's that good. It is just, it's vintage. It's a throwback. It's awesome. So, well, and I will proudly wear my Boise State Broncos shirt that is apparently already on its way.
Cool. So, yeah, I mean, Oregon State Beavers probably not really Canada, but you know what? I would recommend if they are on TV watching them, that offense they ran on Saturday night against Boise was actually pretty fun. There was a lot of moving pieces, a lot of things happening in that offense. I'll tell you that much.
It was. And then, of course, so another beauty of Boise State fans, some of them went to deep dive and went into, obviously, my Twitter history. And we had one of them point out, she's like, what's this about a curse? Because I had obviously made reference to how the Fraser curse might be at an all-time power level these days. It is absolutely ridiculous, the things that the Fraser curse is causing these days. And I don't think she was too comfortable. So no. I can't blame her. So I pointed out the Fraser curse is not generally teams I cheer for, as Winnipeg's finally relevant, and the Jets had a couple pretty good years. The Red Sox have won multiple times, right?
Just don't talk about the Vikings.
Yeah, they're fairly new, right? They're not like tiny baby Fraser. They're not like my teams from tiny baby days. So it's more with the picks and
the takes.
Yes. Picks and takes as the Fraser curse. To bring back that old meme, that the old power level, it's over 9,000 these days, and that includes the Labor Day game, which I said on this very podcast that the Riders would win.
And I believe when you tweeted that we were going to be recording last week, you said we would be back next week for you to drown in your sorrows. So
right, exactly. So again, there's a take. The Fraser curse strikes again.
And here's the thing: it very well almost did actually happen, and maybe probably should have happened if not for a few things that happened in that game.
Right. But I feel like the best way to describe the things that happened in that game is this team has to be cursed, and I feel like the Fraser curse is getting terrifying. Just like how,
so every time the Bombers win the Grey Cup, the curse just gets stronger?
I think so.
Oh, boy. We could be heading toward a third in a row here, and then this thing might be out of control, that you can't even control it anymore like you thought you've been able to for the last little while.
Yeah, no, it's real bad. Well, even go back into recent memory on this very program, when I said perhaps the Elks would sweep the Red Blacks and become a playoff threat, and this Rider team's going to miss the playoffs. The Elks have now
shot back on that one pretty quick, though.
So yeah. They've now lost 2 in a row. Then the following week, when I'm like, hey, look, they just got walloped by the Lions. Maybe the Tiger Cats will catch them. The Tiger Cats have now lost 1, 2, 3 in a row.
The Ticats look currently probably like the worst team in the league at the moment.
They currently are. So I have managed to destroy both the Tiger Cats and the Elks' chances of making the playoffs just in this. And we're also going to wait to see if this extends to sports betting. But I also put a Finback, a $5 bet on the Blue Jays to win the AL East. So whenever the Jays, whenever something bad happens to the Jays, I hear about it. So Yeah, literally, there was a thread in our group chat. I was driving back from Rocanville today, and there was a thread in our football group chat talking about how I managed to Fraser curse everybody's team except the Blue Bombers. It's growing. The power level is over 9,000 to bring back a dead meme.
So yeah, we got a lot to talk about from that Labor Day Classic and heading into the Banjo Bowl. But as usual, before we get into all of that, Mr. John Fraser, I believe we've done the thing, but what is in your glass this week?
In the glass this week, I was perusing once I got home from Rocanville after a nap because, oh boy, did I ever have a time in Rocanville. You can live a life in Rocanville. I was wondering...
Is that on the sign as you get to town?
I think it should be now. Like, okay, seriously though, sneaky nice golf course, decently priced beers, and when you're staying with a close family friend who has the most jam-packed full beer fridge I've seen in my life of just like, because we're all believers in the theory of beer karma, and beer karma is basically if you bring booze to somebody's house, you leave it there. Even if it's, you have two, you leave the rest of it there, right? Mm-hmm. So his fridge is packed with just random crap, and I was in I've drank too much beer, I need to start drinking random crap mood. So, yeah, it was a time. So the hangover is real. Hangover's gone now, and I'm enjoying, as I dip my toes back into alcohol, Rebellion Brewing Co.'s Frenemies. It is wheaty, hoppy, hazy. It is it's nice, especially if you want something with a little bit of hops after maybe drinking. Like I drank a lot of Rebellion Cerveza and beer and amber. I wanted some hops in my life. Frenemies does this perfect, and of course the artwork, just outstanding. Like it's a collab with Torque Brewing out of Winnipeg. So you got an angry gopher against an angry bluebird. They're obviously not wearing the jerseys that we all know that.
No, it looks like a game between like the Montreal Alouettes and the Denver Broncos.
Or Boise State Broncos.
Yeah, either way.
Yeah, it's Boise against the Alouettes, except in the Boise colors is a bird, which of course, Boomer and Buzz, the Eagle mascots, and a very angry, rabid-looking Gainer the Gopher. That still looks less cracked out than when Gainer briefly had those cracked out eyes. So,
and on the back, they're enjoying a beer together. So.
Which, okay, that
cool.
encapsulates the Saskatchewan-Winnipeg rivalry to a T right there. Right? Like, it's one of the best rivalries in sports. And I know I've said this before, that you wear opposition colors at McMahon, at Commonwealth, BC Place, you're generally not having a good time. I've obviously worn Bombers colors many times in Regina. And it's one of those like, hey, you suck. No, you suck. Oh, your team won. Let's go drink some beers together. Hooray. Like, it's just, I know you've got outliers. I know you do. But it just seems like mostly like, even today I was at the liquor store buying this and the guy saw my Bomber gear and he's like, oh, what a football game. Like, it's not like, hey, F you and you get tackled. It's good. It is, so I think the artwork encapsulates what it's like being a Bomber fan in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, if you haven't picked up on it, I actually have the same thing. I had one left in my fridge that I was saving for last week to sort of commemorate the week that was supposed to be, and then that never happened, so it was still in there, and it was that or Pile of Bones face melter for a third straight episode. So my options were pretty limited, so that's kind of the route I went. If you like the sort of theme, though, Multinationals Manitoba is out again this year. They make it once a year around the Labor Day time as well. It's not quite as football themed, but it's kind of the same idea. It's not a co-brew with anyone, but they kind of say, hey, Manitoba, you're cool, too, is kind of the point of it. So.
It's like they're trying to reverse the Fraser curse by putting out a peace beer. I get it. Yes. I see what you're doing now.
Yeah, probably not a lot of peace beer. Well, there's probably beers after the games, but not necessarily peace beers. As I think it's safe to say, despite the loss, and I mean there was a lot going on that day, and I think for obvious reasons, football took a back seat, and I think continues to take a back seat to what has been happening in this province for the last few days. And I think what that game did do, though, was it did provide a certain light, a certain joy on what was a dark day in the province, as that was actually a damn good football game. And I know, obviously, the heat of the moment right after the game and everything, like Rider fans, there's a lot of the people are probably, you're going to be upset after your team loses. I understand that.
Right.
But I think in retrospect, at the end of the day, you sit back and you just watch that game from a purely football perspective. Yeah, it wasn't the high-flying 65-63 chaos games that we all know and love, but it showed the other side of football. It showed like the classic side of football of two teams just, a real chess match, really going at each other. And it was maybe not a game for the ages, but it was certainly a well-played football game by both teams that deservedly came down to very minuscule details that made the difference.
Yes, absolutely. And you said it in the preamble, and I will give you full credit that this wasn't that second half where everything tightened up. It wasn't because you had crappy quarterbacks making, terrible throws. You didn't have running backs that couldn't find a hole. You didn't have, fumbles and drops and everything like that. That second half was just like a guy would make a great play and there'd be somebody on him like that. Like it was entertaining as hell. Definitely the game is the weekend. I was really impressed by that opening drive.
Yeah.
Like, holy crap. Like, and this is what can be so infuriating with this team too. That they can put together a drive like that and they have that in them and they should be focusing on that being their identity, and they just don't. Right? Like, they've got all the tools there. They've got all the pieces to, couple quick passes, roll Cody out, get defenses moving around, let Cody use his legs, and not use his legs in a run into somebody because the play is broken and hurt him even worse, but use his legs with, little rollouts, little play action, do things like that. And they did that so well in that opening drive. Like, I thought watching that opening drive that it was going to be a rout for Saskatchewan. Yeah. I'm like, they have figured it out. They have figured out what works well for them. They're not trying to do something that they're not. They're not, I get it. You have all these receivers that want touches, and you can keep bringing in all these different receivers. But at the end of the day, you're a team that runs the football really well and has a quarterback that can read a defense excellently. You watched what Richie Hall was trying to do the first half, and Cody just kept figuring it out. And you've got veteran smart receivers that see when it's a scramble drill, guys are doing the scramble, right? Like, they're doing it correctly. That was one thing Glenn Suter kept driving home, and it was kind of his theme of the day. And if you've read my drinking game, when he has a theme of the day, you got to take a sip every time he brings it up. So maybe that's why I was paying extra attention. But it just seemed like that's the formula. Like, that first quarter, that's the formula for this team to be really good.
Yeah, it was everything that they should be. And I mean, you're the one that thought. I mean, I was talking with Dan Plaster a lot during the game too, and he was confident at that point that the Riders are going to roll, and it had all the moments and all the momentum. And we thought where it had all the sort of hallmark moments that we've seen in Labor Day's past, where things are going the Rider way, and it just it's going to go downhill quickly for the Bombers.
Yes,
and then it didn't, and I think we'll get into sort of the coaching aspect of this and what the Riders did to themselves in those moments. But I think this Bomber team deserves credit for turning around too. And strangely enough, the play of the game that may have, sort of turned it around the most from the Bomber side of things was Puncher Mark Leggio actually dodging a block and taking a step to the side because he was dead to rights. He had no business getting out of the way of that.
No.
He somehow did, got it off. It wasn't the greatest punt in the world, but how many block punts have we seen on Labor Day in the last 10 years? And that tends to always be the catalyst of the Riders winning 56-4.
Yeah. Well, that's it, and that's it. That Leggio, and I texted you exactly when Leggio made that play. Like, that's the turning point right there, because you are right. They blocked that punt, or they were so clean. Leggio could have been just straight up tackled.
Yeah. Like it looked like they were trying to run a screen and a punt for some reason. That's how open he was.
Oh God! I thought some sort of fake was on. I thought and nobody asked it of Mike O'Shea, but you almost wonder, was that a design punt draw play?
Had they gone on to had that actually been blocked, had something seriously bad happened in that moment, it probably gets questioned. But so much happened later, and the Bombers end up winning that it kind of gets brushed aside a little bit, I guess. Yeah.
Right. But you're right. There's no way that you get two guys that are that unblocked that they could literally just tackle the punter. So. Yeah, that little shimmy shake by Leggio and then still getting enough leg on it. It almost reminded me of Josh Bartell back in the day. Now, he would have that running, like, Aussie rules football punt, and again, it didn't go far, but it ended up rolling quite a bit of the way. The cover team got down there. Like, I have no idea what the hell was going on, and because you're right, like, like that is a chaotic play, and that gets blocked. The Riders for sure are scoring there, and it's Labor Day hell that I have personally been through so many times, and I was just expecting it. I'm like, hey, this is getting blocked, and it's like all the ghosts of Labor Day past just jumped into Mark Leggio, and he was like, nope, I'm just going to break this little curse, and then the Bombers looked like the Bombers after that.
It was a bit of a breathe moment. I think it was also, the Bombers sort of got the wind underneath their sails a little bit on that 2nd and 1, so this is where we'll get into the Riders side of things here a bit, where, they get down to, I believe, like the 10, between the 10 and the 20-yard line. They're in pretty good field goal range. It's 2nd and 1. They've been rolling. They've been running the ball well. All this stuff happens, and then Jason Maas calls that pass to the wide side to Frankie Hickson, and Frankie Hickson happens to lose his feet. They lose a couple yards. They force to settle for the field goal that made it 14-0 at the time. And at that point, I was like, they're going to regret not getting 7 there.
Yes.
Yep. And sure enough, the Bombers came back, and that's when they started getting going, and it was all because... And granted, that play could have worked. There's no question. Had Frankie Hickson not lost his feet, maybe he's a powerful guy. We know he probably could have picked up a couple yards in that spot. But in the end, I'm still a process guy. Just like when good decisions don't work out, when bad decisions work out, it's still a bad decision. And in that scenario, for how well they done, I think they didn't come close to getting stopped on a sneak the rest of the game. Why you wouldn't just keep it simple there? Keep the momentum rolling going forward. I don't know, but that's kind of what they keep doing themselves from a coaching perspective, and I just can't wrap my head around it.
Well, and if you wanted to try to catch them off guard there, throw in the famous fake sneak. Yeah. Right?
Or at least, you're 2nd and 1. You're going on 3rd.
Right.
Just throw it to the end zone.
Right. Fake sneak, go to the end zone, or try something Or, have Hickson just kind of fall forward or Cody fall forward. It was just... It's funny that I had kind of forgotten about that play where the turf monster got Hickson.
Yeah. To me, that was as much as, the block punt was sort of like the Bombers' awakening. I think when the Bombers were able to keep the Riders to 3 in that spot, I think that really started to give them life in that moment.
Yeah, it really did. Because being down 3 scores in the first half in a hostile environment that would have just been like full on party mode, I don't think, even as good as Winnipeg is, I don't think they're coming back there. I don't think they have a shot. It's just that Rider D was very good throughout the whole game. You're right. I think that's 2 moments there, 2 goofy moments, one by coaching, one just by a great play by the punter that could have absolutely turned this into another classic Labor Day route where everybody from Winnipeg goes home very sad and everybody gets very drunk at Mosaic and in fairness, has a very good time, right? So, but you're right. It almost, that play almost ends up being foreshadowing for the game.
Yeah.
That it's just, and I'm trying to figure it out. Like, is this Jason Maas deciding that some guys need touches? Like, that he has all these receivers.
But I guess that we don't know we know what the decision ended up being on the field. We don't know if Cody had options on the play. He ended up choosing Frankie Hickson. So if that was the case, there's lots of other ways to get Frankie Hickson the ball in that spot that are a lot safer and probably a lot more likely to convert the first down.
But Cody had that out in like a split second.
He did, yep.
Like, that was like, it was almost like, I don't think, unless Cody saw something on the defensive side of the ball.
It would have been like a pre-read snap where he thought, okay, if I see this, I'm going. If I see this, I'm throwing.
Right, exactly. And I see, I don't know, like, it just, the amount of time...
I'm just saying, I could see what you were saying.
Yeah.
If it's about getting the ball in guys' hands, if he had, say, thrown to Kyron Moore or something instead.
Right.
Not the guy who had the most touches, but probably still didn't have enough touches.
Yeah, exactly. Guy who was having a hell of a game. But and the thing is, I don't think... Because Cody has rarely shown that he's a terrible decision quarterback. Like, he's not the kind of quarterback that, like, he sees a blitz coming and makes a good read. He sees the defense and makes a good read. The reason Cody Fajardo fails is because sometimes he just doesn't throw a good ball.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, it's the complete opposite of, Taylor Cornelius throws just a beautiful football, but can't read a defense to save his life at this point in his career, right? Cody is the exact opposite. Cody sometimes just floats them out there and gives teams chances to make plays, or overthrows or underthrows guys and gives teams chances to make plays, but he seems to be a very cerebral, very smart guy, and that's what's gotten him that far. Just, to me, I think this comes down to Jason Moss just galaxy braining this shit.
Yep, and he's far from the only offensive coordinator to fall for it. They all overthink it at times and make, head-scratching decisions that sort of make you wonder a little bit. And I mean,
right.
As much as we want to pile on Jason Moss, and we will ultimately for the game losing interception at the end as well. Head coach Craig Dickinson was not immune to some curious decisions in this game as well.
Right.
The one I think the least egregious, the one that maybe didn't necessarily cost him as much, was the stupid challenge on the pass interference to Kyran Moore. He apparently said after the game he did it because he wanted to show the players he had their backs. I'm like, ugh.
But you can't do that.
Okay, I mean, you can do that in a lot of spots, and there are times where sometimes you got to trust your players and believe in them when they believe that should be a penalty. There are other situations you got to be the grown up in the room and say, sorry, no, you're wrong, that was a penalty, and throw the challenge flag on and waste it. For a guy who we know very philosophically, rightly or wrongly, will not call a timeout in the first half to keep them both for the second half. Right. To essentially waste a timeout on that goes against everything that I believe Craig Dickinson to stand for when it comes to timeout use.
Well, and the thing that I found fascinating is you look at that compared to Mike O'Shea.
Mm-hmm.
And you look, there's a pass, I want to say it was third quarter or fourth quarter, where Zach Galaris throws the pass and immediately starts calling, challenge it, challenge it, challenge it, challenge it. You see in the replay, just a great defensive play.
Yeah.
And Mike O'Shea knows to keep that flag in his pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get that, I get that you want to show your guys you have their back, but if the other guy over there who's got 2 Grey Cup rings and a team sitting at 10-1 can look his quarterback in the eye and go, no. Right? Yeah. Especially on, and Zach's play, to me, was less cut and dry than the one that Craig decided to challenge.
No, I mean, that was one of the most obvious offensive pass interferences I've ever seen. And then, hilariously enough, a few plays later, the Riders are getting the ball back on a punt that looked like it could have been no yards, and that would have been a far better use of that challenge than what Craig ended up using it on. Again, the weirdest thing in that play, I don't know if you saw it. I caught it. I didn't really tweet. I didn't really say much about it, but I saw it, and I looked at my the ref had his hand in his pocket, and he was going to throw the flag on that no yards, and then he didn't.
I didn't see it, but
it was interesting. I was like, okay.
I know guys at the game in the group chat definitely saw that too.
I'm not 100% confident that was definitely no yards, and that wouldn't have made a difference probably in the grand scheme of the game. It was just an interesting moment, is all that was. And I'm like 75% sure that was probably no yards, but I wasn't all the way there. But I was like, okay, interesting.
But there again, you used, and even if you agree with the decision to show that you got your guys' backs, using something as finite as a challenge to do that, reeks of desperation. It reeks of he doesn't know how to get the guys behind him, which again is a shame because he's a very smart, well-spoken guy. But it's becoming more and more clear as this season goes on that
he might be in over his head a little bit. Yeah,
I would say exactly that. Right? I mean, you look at, you go back to the Garrett Marino.
I think he still has the potential to be a good head coach. Yes. I don't know without the perfect roster if he's a great head coach that can win a championship.
No, I would agree with that. I mean, he's obviously better at being he's a great coordinator, and obviously he's better at making the transition from great coordinator to coach than Paul LaPolice is.
Yeah,
but you just look at the issues. Like you just look at penalty after penalty after penalty after penalty, right? And it's game after game, and never mind, the decision to challenge, but like, what are you doing letting Duke hang out on that sideline? And what are you doing not controlling your team? Like, because that's another moment in this game where, he hadn't quite finished the wrapping paper and put a bow on it, but like, he was starting to pack up that present for Bomber fans across the nation there.
Yeah,
right?
And I mean the Duke penalty is a weird one because, I mean, on one hand, okay, he shouldn't be there maybe. On the other hand, you should trust your guys to know better when they're not playing, at least to not do something dumb. So, I mean, it kind of falls both ways. I think it's pretty obvious at this point that Duke Williams probably will not be a Saskatchewan Rough Rider next year.
Yes.
It's unfortunately maybe too late in this year now because he gets paid now because we're past Labor Day.
Yep.
So there's not much you can do about that on that regard. And I think, the Garrett Marino situation isn't going away. Despite the fact that he may think he hasn't been penalized since coming back. He's been fined once and is probably going to be fined again this week.
And deleted the tweet.
And has now protected his Twitter account,
Oh my God. What a
so, I mean, that's a whole thing that is sort of coach adjacent that isn't, maybe necessarily 100% coaching decisions, but is certainly part of the coaching discussion on this team. I think, another, decision that I didn't like in that game was the 3rd and 5 near midfield where they opted for the 57-yard field goal.
Yes.
And I understand, and just not a slam on Brett Lowther at all. I fully believe he could make that kick again if you offered it to him.
Yeah.
But anytime you're kicking on your side of the field for a field goal attempt, to me, I'm like, this better be like the final 3 minutes of the game and you absolutely need these points to attempt this kick situation. To me, I would have just rolled the dice and gone for it. Either you were kind of in that no man's punt zone, just go for it.
Right. Yeah, because you're right. So you're turning it
the
over.
way the defense is playing in the second half. Like, if you trust your defense, the call is to actually go for it.
Yeah, if you want to show trust in your guys, that's the kind of shit you do. Mm-hmm. You go for it because you're showing trust in your offense to get it done on 3rd and 5. You're showing trust in your defense that if they fail, they will bail you out. So, yeah, that was another one that I was shocked that they went for. Especially because that distance, and Lowther has that leg. Mm-hmm. That game to me was another great audition tape for him in the NFL one day. Like you have to think it's coming at some point. But the potential for a long return on those long field goals if you miss, like again,
at the very least, you're probably the bomb. I mean, I don't think they ended up getting that deep on the return, but.
It was around the 30, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, what could have been worse, but generally speaking, more often than not, you kick from that spot, they're probably getting pretty close to where you kicked from anyway.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly it. So you look at it as a net gain of 20, 30 yards?
Yeah.
For that, instead of just going for it.
Because, I mean, at that point, you don't have... I don't care what kicker you are, very few have the leg to actually get it through the end zone for the point, at least. So...
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, there's no kicker in the world that's booting it 70 yards in the air.
No.
Right? It's not one of those misses from the 40 where you're more than likely still getting a single point, right? There was that. There was Duke. There was I've never seen a game, or at least it's been a very long time, in which the players played so well. And the coaches just... Like, I can't think of many games at the CFL level with that kind of a focus on them and preparation on them.
No, in every game, there's going to be decisions where a coach makes that you're going to second guess, and that's fine. That's all part of it. But yeah, normally when a team loses, you can accompany it with okay, this was a bad decision, but this also happened that was not a good whatever by whatever player.
Cody threw 3 picks.
Yeah.
Williams dropped a bunch of balls. Garrett Marino committed 7 unnecessary roughness penalties.
There's usually something else you can point to, and I can't really point to anything that specifically that I would say it was a player's fault that happened in this game as to why they lost this game.
No, I thought...
Even though Cody Fajardo was picked once, we can get into this now, he was picked once, and I don't even put that on him at all.
No.
Because he should not have been put in that situation to begin with.
It was a tip ball as well.
Yeah, tip ball. They're at I believe, the 26-yard line. You've been running the ball well all day. There's 2 minutes left in the game. Every offensive coordinator on the planet knows, run the football on first down and get the clock moving.
even if you're not an offensive coordinator, even if you've played one game of Madden in your life,
the idea is, okay, let's get the clock moving. Take a knee. I don't care.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Like, okay, so you can literally burn off a minute and 10 seconds there. Kick the field goal and go up by a touchdown. Like, that's the other thing too. I could understand still passing, obviously, if they were down or if the game was tied. Maybe you think you see something, you can get closer to the end zone. Okay, again, not a great idea. But you can justify it. You see something there that will get you 6
touchdown to win. Absolutely, yes.
Right. Even if the game is tied, I don't hate the call as much because maybe you're catching somebody off guard, right?
Yeah, and there's still the possibility that you get the stop and you're going to overtime still. It's fine. But when when you need those 3 points to get the lead, to give yourself a chance at winning, no, you as much as I hate, conservative football at times, there is times when you have to do that. And that was one of those spots. And to me, that is a spot and a decision by an offensive coordinator that is just completely inexcusable.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's even, I was talking to the guy at the liquor store today. He saw my Bomber hat. He's like, you run the ball. You run the ball there. And
that's even if this was the old Riders who couldn't run the ball worth a damn. You're still running the football there.
Or taking a knee if you don't want to risk it, right? If you had everybody that had Butterfingers in the Corey Chamberlain era, right? Like you said, take a knee. You can burn off a minute, 10 seconds, which gives the Bombers 50 seconds to get from their 40 to your end zone, assuming that they don't take the kickoff, right? So that all of a sudden you're up 21-17 with
they were down 2. They would have been up by 1 after the field goal.
Sorry, yes. Because Winnipeg, because Leggio had the field goal. So still,
nothing was assured at that point, but you at least would have put yourself in a position to potentially win the game.
Which you always want to do. And even, okay, if you call a pass and you call for the end zone, you texted it to me, I think this is going to be a case of them scoring too early, and I agreed with you. Like, they had all the momentum.
All the hallmarks there was they're going to score too fast.
Right. And I would have liked that play there where everybody in the universe, where Richie Hall and everybody in that Bomber defense is expecting, you to run the ball, and you go to the end zone, you probably got man coverage there someplace. Mm-hmm. You probably got one-on-one. You probably got a chance to throw it up and let a Shaq Evans or a Kyron Moore be the hero. Instead, you throw right down the middle. The most dangerous, crowded spot of the football field, you throw down the middle, which, again, might have been Jason Moss, might have been Cody, I don't know who, but A, the play call was terrible, B, the execution was terrible, and all of a sudden a tip ball and Winnipeg wins.
And sort of the cherry on top of the whole thing was you were throwing the football to the guy you should have just handed it to.
That's it. Like, I don't know, like, they have maybe two, like, it's a shame for Hickson and Morrow that Brady Oliveira is the leading rusher in the CFL.
Yeah.
Like,
because at this point, and this is no disrespect to Brady Oliveira or the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, I think you would be hard-pressed to find even many Bomber fans who would argue that the Riders don't have a better overall run game.
Oh, that run game is ridiculous. Like again, it's literally what that first drive is who this team should be. And I can't believe that there's not somebody out of all those coaches saying, this is what we should do.
Until proven otherwise, there's absolutely no reason for the Rider running back, whoever it is, to have at least 20 touches in a game.
Yes.
Fewer than that. No reason for it whatsoever.
Yes. And instead, they go out and they keep showing it, and it's like, I couldn't imagine being a fan of this team. Like it's as an outside observer, it's almost comical by this point. Like, because this is not the only game they've done this, where they've come out, run the ball down your throat, made some really nice play action passes. Cody is asked to make the throws that Cody is good at, which again is him rolling out, him on bootlegs. And they just like, holy crap, like that first quarter team. And here's the thing that maybe a lot of fans don't know is when a team gets the ball and wants to start on offense, they've got about a 15-play script ready to go.
Yep. They
know the first 15 plays or so they're calling of that football game because of what they've seen on film. That's what they're doing. They know exactly. They follow the script. It's almost like this Riders team, as soon as the script is done, they can't freehand at all.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it. But yet they'll probably figure it out and become the 8-10 Grey Cup champions at home this year.
Yeah, I mean, there is still some positives to take away despite all of that. I think, to me, number one, sort of the big thing that we didn't think was maybe possible a few weeks ago was that they can, in fact, hang with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Oh, God, yes. Yeah.
They may get destroyed this week in the Banjo Bowl, but that's not out of character for any Rider team going into that game.
Yes.
And number two, I think, even though he maybe didn't necessarily light the world on fire, he didn't throw a lot of touchdowns or anything, Cody still looked like Cody again.
Yes.
Which I think is important.
2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, which is important for this team going forward, is like you watched him and you say, okay, this is the Cody Fajardo we know. So
yes.
I think it's important to be able to take that away and carry that into now, hopefully, the rest of the season for him.
Yes, absolutely. And it's nice to see it's building momentum for Cody because, I mean, I don't think the problems they're having on offense are necessary. I mean, I think they're related to Cody's
He definitely
health.
had, I think, a pretty deep valley this year, but I'm fairly confident that he's out of it now.
Yes. And the big thing to me is watching him, like, he's not scared anymore.
No.
Like, I don't know if they've got him so full of painkillers or he's just finally learned or his knee's getting better. But, like, he doesn't look like he's throwing scared. He's moving well, stepping around the pocket well, rolling out well. And, again, the number of times it was just scramble drills. And because that's what they're going to need. That offensive line is trash. Mm-hmm. But if Cody can get away, like, it was almost comical at times that it was like Jefferson and Jeffcoat were in the backfield so quickly that they overran Cody.
Yeah.
And it seemed to happen a few times because Cody was all ready. Plus... And let's face it, and it's weird to say that a team is maybe still figuring it out after Labor Day. We're 12 games into the season, but they're new. The only team that could really catch them for the crossover now is the hottest team in the CFL, the Ottawa Redblacks.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking they got some time, and I think this goes once again back down to the fact that they're going to be the 8-10 Grey Cup champions, and I'm here for it because of the chaos it's going to cause. And I'm like, again, Winnipeg's won back-to-back, so I'm okay with, it feels like everywhere I've been going in Saskatchewan the past couple of years, I do that awful like cringe walk from Spider-Man 3, like where he's like snapping his finger at girls, and it's just horrifically awful. That's felt like me,
God.
especially today. So, Rider fans, I hope you get a little bit of that while you waltz around in Winnipeg.
Shop Plato's Closet tax-free August 2nd through 4th for back-to-school styles. We sell the trendy, gently used styles you need to make a difference in the world and in your wallet for back-to-school shopping. Save up to 70% off regular retail prices by choosing recycled styles. Save even more when you shop tax-free this weekend. Make a change that others can respect and repeat. Shop Plato's Closet in North Charleston and West Ashley this year for your back-to-school looks. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.